Hey everyone, I'm Harley Salbacka.
And I'm Anthony Mauro. And this is Boom Direct, and today we're thrilled to have with us the creators behind the new action-packed sci-fi romp Man's Best, Pornsak Pichetshote and Jesse Lonergan.
We're really stoked to have both of you here, so we're obviously going to open with a really hard question. Which are you? Are you a cat person or are you a dog person?
That's a course. That's
dog. I don't even need to think about it. One sec, I can see him thinking about it. I'm like, no, 100% dog. Not even close.
I text it a lot, and so I feel like it fluctuates whatever the latest pet and I always feel like I'm betraying someone if I go one over the other. Although generally, I am allergic of most cats. I'm allergic to most cats, so I guess for that reason. Well, most cats. I happen to not be allergic to the cat I just cat sit. But, so for that reason...
Wait, so people have you cat sit?
What's that?
When you're allergic?
No.
They have you cat sit when you're allergic?
No, just this particular cat, because I'm not allergic to this cat. Okay. But I am not allergic to dogs, so I feel like I like more dogs then. I can be around more dogs than I can be around cats. So maybe I'm a dog person.
But you made the cat more of the protagonist in Man's Best.
Well, I mean, come on. The cat, see, this is going to offend the dog people, but like, if you're going to have a group of animals, a cat is leading that crew. I'm sorry.
Isn't that natural? I don't know about that. I feel like cats are the rogue. They're like, I'm going to go my own way. It's sort of
for context, during this entire conversation, my cat is underneath my chair biting my feet. I prefer dogs personally. I've met a lot more cool dogs than I met cool cats. That being said, I do absolutely love my cat, even though he's just biting the crap out of my leg right now.
You need to show us Vicious. Yeah. Pull Vicious up and just show him off.
Pick him up. Here's the
there
culprit.
You go.
Oh, look at him. How could you hate that little squish face?
Well, because he's immediately started biting my finger. That's
That's fantastic.
I feel like I'm a little bit of both. It just depends on the animal because I have to vibe with the animal. I think dogs tend to be more empathetic than cats, but I also have met some extremely sweet cats. I had a super sweet cat at one point who was just very kind and cuddly, but then I've met some cats who like just want to bite you the whole time. So listen, cats are more like people. I think dogs are their own special thing, right?
Dogs are great.
And that's why the cats are
leaders. That's why the cats are more like people.
How did the two of you come together for Man's Best?
Well, the editor, Eric Harburn, just emailed me and said, I've got this project. I feel like you'd be a good fit for it. And then, he sent me the outline and Pornsak and I started talking, and that's sort of where it began. So it wasn't like we met at some convention or anything. It was like all over
we were reaching for the same cup of coffee.
I think it was like a form submission on my website from Eric Harburn.
Was it a late night at BarCon?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
anything
like that. The story felt like something that I could do, but not something I had done before. Like sort of like within my like reach, but like not something people had asked me sort of to do, or not something I felt like I could do on my own. So it just felt like a really good fit and a good project. It's been like a blast working with Pornsak and Eric and Jeff. Jeff Powell, the letterer.
Eric deserves all the credit for it. He was the one who I wouldn't say brought Jesse to my attention, because I was like an enormous fan of Jesse's coming from Hydra. It's one of the few times like you can look at my Instagram and like I can prove it, because as soon as I saw that, I posted about it. So I have a trail. I'm not just saying that for publicity's sake. And and Eric was the one that was just kind of like, I think Jesse would be a great fit for it. And Jesse's heard me tell the story many times. I'm just like, why would he want to work with me? Like, he's doing all this cool stuff on his own. Like, why would he? And it's just like, he seems to have figured it out. I don't know if he's gonna be interested. But it's like, we should just ask. I hear he's working with the other writers. Like, he is? Why is he doing that? He should just keep doing his own stuff. It looks fantastic. And
I like to think that's what's going on. Is people are like, oh, he's busy. We won't ask him to work for DC or Marvel. He's probably doing something really too cool for us.
Honestly, because if I had made this book over at like Image or something like that, where like I come up with the creative teams, I honestly would not have had it. Would have been like walking up to those popular girlfriend at the prom and asking her. I was like, I'm clearly just gonna get denied. Like, why would I bother to do that? It was
sure.
For sure. A waste of my time. I'm sure there are other things I could be doing. Yeah. So it took someone like Eric.
The most popular girl is so lonely. No one
is old enough to go up there.
Pornsak, this is a bit of a departure for the kind of stories that you usually are known for. Yes. What prompted the genre and the tonal shift for Man's Best?
My first instinct is to make poor life choices for myself and to make things more difficult for myself than they need to be. I do consider myself at heart a horror writer. Like, that is like my first instinct over anything. And the thing about horror, at least the way I sort of approach horror, is the easiest way to make something feel scary is to make it unfamiliar. We instinctively are scared by things that we are not familiar with, that seem sort of bigger than us and the unknown. And I went through this kind of thing where it's just like, it's this idea that, especially where we are in the world right now, this idea that the fact that the world is bigger than us is a scary thing and a thing to be afraid of, and a thing that to be considered bad wasn't really sitting well with me. And I thought, like, I'd like to approach it from a completely different angle. There was a time, if you look at those old, like, sort of, and a lot of the books that I read, to prep for this, these old sci-fi books, Asimov's Foundation, Arthur C. Clarke's 2001, Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles, this idea of the world being bigger than you was a thing to relish. It was a thing to celebrate. It was a thing of wonder. And I wanted to tell a story that talked about feeling small within that, and make it a book more about wonder than about fear. And so in so many ways, this book is the complete inverse to what I normally do. To the point where, if I'm writing a horror comic, I think about what the scares are. I think about what the scary imagery is and all this kind of stuff. I work the exact opposite for this. I think about what the cutes are. I think, like, what are the cute images that what are my cute, like, milestones I'm going to build to through the course of the comic? And that's really sort of how I approach it. But really, it just came from this idea that just, like, I wanted to do a book that talked about feeling small in a very big world and was tried to be realistic about, like, the threats and the danger and all that, but at the same time, celebrate and mythologize the wonder of it as opposed to the scariness of it. This book, it's I call it Homeward Bound in Space. It's about three emotional support animals living on a spaceship, and they crash lands on a planet, and they have to go save their humans. But what it's really about, it's about friendships during crisis, and it's about three best friends who are best friends in the lap of safety, and their differences are quirks that they kind of get used to and kind of get along with and manage that. But then they're thrust into danger for the first time, and suddenly their differences feel a lot more acute. And it's about what happens to friendships during moments of crisis. And for me, a lot of this was me processing, coming out of the pandemic and, things that I had gone through with my friends and all that. And so it all became a way to do this. And for once I get to do it with, like, cats in mech suits and, like, bulldogs with rocket straps to the back. I remember when I got Jesse's first pages, I was with a friend who also writes comics, and I was just like, this is the most comic book I've ever comic booked. It's awesome.
Speaking of, like, the visual language and the design, I am a huge fan of, like, the juxtaposition of the retrofuturism designs of, like, the holodeck simulations and, like, the more industrial gritty designs of, like, the real world part, like the real world sci-fi elements of it. So what went into developing that visual language for Man's Best?
When he talks about, like, like classic books like Foundation 2001, I feel like visually there was sort of going back to that sort of aspect as well. So, like, with with things like the robots and sort of like the holodeck, it's like this sort of fun, exciting, shiny sort of future. Like, and so looking at sort of like fun robots, you know, like Gigantor or Astro Boy, and the way things sort of looked at that time, where it's like, you know, it's kind of like they're big and impressive, but they're also kind of like so soft and rounded. It doesn't feel that dangerous. Like even if they're doing dangerous things, it's like that. And then sort of like moving more towards, I don't know, like Ridley Scott for the real world, and like it's like, oh, it's going to be dirty and gritty, and like we're going to jam as much stuff on this thing, and sort of like when he talks about sort of like the unfamiliar, like with the early robots having like this very clear defined shape, like this is the body of the robot and you can see it and understand it. And then in the second half of the first issue, we get into these other robots, and it's like, wait, what are they? Like it's sort of unfamiliar because
watchtower kind
of. Is it a building? Yeah. Is it a like you know? Is it attached to the ground? Is it not? Like sort of kind of trying to keep this sort of like ambiguity, this sort of amorphous or polymorphous quality, to make it sort of to show that they're stepping into another reality, that this is things are changing. This has real impact on them, and sort of like kind of keep the visuals sort of evolving so that they're always in an unfamiliar space. Like I really enjoy drawing, and like part of like my idea of trying to like, this is fun, like this is like sort of like joyous, and I try to have that energy even if I'm drawing like serious stuff. It's like I'm still having fun drawing, so I feel like it's like a good match for this book.
As someone who likes to eat meals prepared by Jesse Lonergan, it was kind of like saying, hey, cook me this, cook me this, cook me this, cook me this. I'm just going to eat all of it while I have a chance. I'm going to have access to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it.
So you're just feasting.
Yes, very much
just
so.
Feasting on Jesse's art.
I feel like Pornsak's providing things that like I wouldn't do on my own. Like I wouldn't find a place for it, but he's like, oh, why don't you try, you know, cooking this? I'm like, oh, that's a good thing to cook. Like let's have some cake.
The way Jesse draws is like, you know, there's those videos of just like, oh, this couch is actually a cake. But for Jesse, it's like, it's a cake and it's actually a couch. Like,
we were wondering if you guys could also dive in a little bit into the title. So man's best, dogs are man's best friend, and then scientists are man's best minds. And then the people that we send into space are representative of the best of all of us. So what are you conveying with that title?
I think you nailed it right there. I think it means it's all of those things. It's the ideas that in many ways our pets are the best of us. The thing that's great, or the things I find most amusing about pets is that we don't really know what they think. But at the same time, we just extrapolate so much of their owners' personalities onto them. And so we pick and instill sort of everything we want. So like, you know, all the animals here are based on my friends' pets, which is kind of said to say all the characters are based on my friends because they're just
I love that.
So you know, but I think it's all that. It's the best of them. It's the best of us. But I think it's also and we get into it a little bit in the first issue, where there's this idea that pets in their simplicity represent the best aspects of humanity, humanity at its purest. And, you know, a big inspiration for this was, you know, again, going through the pandemic and watching all my friends get emotional support animals or getting pets. I have this thing where I can't separate emotional support animals from pets because in my building, before the pandemic, it was a no pet building. And then during the pandemic, they made an exception. It's like, you can get a cat if it's an emotional support animal. And now my building is filled with cats. So I don't actually know the difference between an emotional support animal and a pet because my building is filled with emotional support animals.
I have a turtle. It doesn't provide any emotional support whatsoever.
If there is one thing that you want the readers to take away from man's best, what is it?
I guess I just feel like it's like the sort of like this feeling of like differences that can't be overcome being overcome, and like, you know, like these sort of like interpersonal conflicts that I think we can let them be as big as we want them to be, and we could also just move past them. And I feel like hopefully that sort of message of like hope and sort of optimism of like being able to work through differences would be the thing I'd hope people would find in it. And also, like, you know, having fun on the way. Like, I don't think it ever gets particularly preachy. But like just that sort of optimism and that sort of willingness to see other people or other animals or whoever, sort of without too jaded a view.
Oh, I love that.
I think for me, I don't know what I necessarily want them to take from it, but I know the most important thing to me, especially as going through that first issue, especially as we're going through this, it is very much about these characters who feel small and feel like they can't really do anything to change the bigger things around them that are problems. And they just need to find a way to survive and to take care and help the people that are closest to them and who take care of them. And I don't know what, you know, to me, that's the heart of the book. And that's the question around the book of like, can you do that? To what degree do you have to do that? What do you have to sacrifice along the way to do that? And to me, that's the heart of the book. And it's, I guess, that facet of it is the part I hope people make some connection to people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that.
I love that too.
I will say it is worth it for all the Jesse Lonergan art. Like, I can't tell you much. I don't know how the story will hold up, but the Jesse Lonergan art is fantastic.
I feel like Pornsak found out I'm uncomfortable with compliments, and he's just like, oh, I am just gonna compliment him and just like watch his face turn redder and redder.
I have to say, it's a book that doesn't visually look like any other book on shelves right now, and it's a book I haven't seen visually look like, nothing visually comparable in probably about a decade in terms of like mainstream comics. Like, really, I haven't seen anything like it in a long time. Because
you do the colors yourself too, right, Jesse?
Yeah. I do. Much as I kick myself for agreeing to do the colors myself, I do the colors.
I will say, I appreciate a good colorist. There's been books that I read, because I used to run a comic book shop, where I'd read it and be like, the art's good, but man, the colors make it like a next level. And I feel like your art is amazing, and then your colors are also amazing. Like, they're just perfect. They're soft, like, yet like a little bit harder where they need to be. I know that sounds so weird, but like, I love a good colorist, and I love that you do both. It shows. Well, now that we've made everybody all gushy and a little uncomfortable, Jesse and Pornsak, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a phenomenal conversation, and we are so excited to see what the rest of Man's Best has in store for us just as fans. Yes. Please tell the good people of the internet where to find you. Jesse, my name, Jesse Lonergan, should get you pretty much everything. It's all variations. So Jesse.Lonergan on Instagram, Jesse Lonergan's on Twitter. I think just Jesse Lonergan on Blue Sky, which everybody can join now. And my website's jesselonergan.com.
I actually think that is exactly how you should have your social media. How I have my social media is exactly you shouldn't have your social media. My Twitter is real_Pornsak. My Instagram is real_Psak. And my Blue Sky is Pornsak. That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense for me to set it up that way. It's hard to remember. It is the most inconvenient in all the ways. But that's what it is. That's what it is. Thank you to everyone listening. Make sure you pick up Man's Best #1 at your local comic book shop on March 20th. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget that the full-length episodes are on podcast form wherever you get your podcasts, except for Google Podcasts, because that doesn't exist anymore. So anywhere else but Google Podcasts. And if you want to stay up to date, which I'm sure you do, on all the cool things that we have coming down the pipeline for Boom Direct, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast, and follow Boom Studios on social media. Remember, comics are for everyone. Which is why we make comics for everyone. I'm Anthony Mauro. I'm Harley Salbacka. And this is Boom Direct. Boom Direct.